Uh, this is Marta, and I'm actually going to read the disclosures for everyone. That's okay. So as Althea mentioned, you are able to earn continuing education contact hours for attending today's webinar. We have listed the disclosures on the screen in front of you, so please make sure to review those. In order to receive your evaluation credits, all you have to do is at the end of the session, you will see a link, a slide with a link to access the program evaluation. It'll also be sent to you in a follow-up email. Make sure that you check your junk mail if you do not receive that email. So in order to receive that contact hour, please make sure to complete that evaluation. And at the end of the evaluation, you will be able to access the certificate. We appreciate your feedback to this evaluation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Marta. And now we'll move forward in our presentation with our speakers, Dr. Kelly Warenga and Dr. Kendra Camp. And we thank you for agreeing to present with us today. Here we go. And please feel free, as I mentioned, if you have questions from the audience, please include them in your chat feature. Okay, Dr. Kelly, Dr. Warenga, and Dr. Camp, you may begin.
Thank you so much for joining us today and welcome to the webinar. We're honored and delighted to have this opportunity to talk with you about a topic that's important to both of us, and that is engagement in research leadership for early career scholars. If you would like to continue the discussion after our presentation today, we invite you to find us on Twitter, and we have our Twitter handles here as well.
Today we have three main goals for the webinar. We hope that by the time you are done, you will be able to describe the importance of research leadership for early career scholars, that you can identify local, regional, and global opportunities for engagement in research leadership, and finally, that you can start to develop a plan for your engagement in research leadership. But before we begin, we'd like to share a bit more about ourselves.
So my name is Kelly Warenga. I completed my PhD at Michigan State University, followed by a postdoctoral fellowship at Case Western Reserve University. Following this training, I joined Indiana University as an assistant professor in the School of Nursing in 2018. My program of research is centered on the development and testing of interventions to improve self-management behaviors in individuals with cardiovascular disease. Specifically, I focus on those recovering from a major cardiac event by helping them to improve the use of adaptive emotion regulation strategies in the face of their emotionally taxing event and recovery. I have been involved in research leadership for many years, including as a Jonas Scholar in 2012 to 2014, as a founding member of the Emerging Scholars Network of the Midwest Nursing Research Society, as a board member for the Midwest Nursing Research Society, as a member of the American Heart Association's Cardiovascular and Stroke Nursing Early Career Committee, as well as many local and university-based committees.
And I'm Kendra Camp. I also completed my PhD at Michigan State University, which is where I first met Kelly. Currently, I'm a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Washington. I was previously on a one-year T32 postdoc in the School of Nursing, but on September 1st, I transitioned to a second T32 postdoc, this time in the Division of Gastroenterology in the School of Medicine. I'm extremely honored to be the first nurse on this long-standing T32. My research interests focus on improving self and symptom management of patients with ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, and irritable bowel syndrome. In terms of research leadership, I was a 2016-2018 Jonas Nurse Scholar, and I have been involved in a variety of organizations, including the Midwest Nursing Research Society, the Western Institute of Research, the American Neurogastroenterology and Motility Society, and the American Gastroenterology Association. I have held leadership positions as the president of the Michigan State University Doctoral Nurses Association and as communications representative and co-chair of the Emerging Scholars Network of the Midwest Nursing Research Society. And so moving forward, what do we mean when we talk about engagement in research leadership for early career scholars? We define early career nurse scholar as a nurse in the formative and early stages of their career development. This includes undergraduate and graduate nursing students across the range of degrees, BSN, MSN, DNP, and PhD, as well as including postdoctoral fellows and other nurse scholars who are starting their career, such as faculty. Engagement refers to an involvement or participation, and leadership refers to facilitating change within a group. We view research leadership as a shared vision of research to improve the health of all people through science and innovation. You will notice that we intentionally include a broad definition of research leadership because we believe that each of us who are in this space of advancing the science of nursing are engaging in research leadership. Research leadership includes attending conferences and networking. In other words, research leadership is not limited to serving on formal committees within organizations. Although we do still believe this is vitally important, and we'll encourage you to think of formal ways to get involved.
So moving forward, in this webinar, we're going to talk about the questions emerging nurse scientists may have surrounding engagement in research leadership. So let's go through what you can expect to hear about. First of all, we'll start with answering the question of why. This will cover the rationale for engaging in research leadership. Next, we'll talk about who. Specifically, we will cover which individuals are qualified to engage in research leadership. After that, we'll talk about when. This is about the timing that individuals can engage in research leadership. Then we'll talk about where are the locations or organizations to engage in research leadership. And finally, we'll finish with answering the question how. This will cover the roles for engagement in research leadership.
Next slide. We know your time is limited. If you're still in school, you're focused on studying, learning, and passing your courses. Postdocs and faculty are working on developing their research trajectories, as well as balancing other academic roles and responsibilities. So why should you spend time engaging in research leadership as an early career scholar? Well, Kelly and I have compiled our top 10 reasons. Some of these are personal, while some are professional. And what we found when making this list is that many of these reasons are interrelated. So don't be surprised if you pick up on some themes as we go through our top 10.
So starting on the lighthearted side of the list, number 10 is friends and bragging rights. You can be connected with some amazing people who are also engaging in research leadership. These people may become good friends that are there for you through the challenges of your career and your personal life. Kendra and I, for instance, have participated in a number of research leadership opportunities together and have become great friends in the process. These friends will be critical as you advance in the profession and need someone to talk with. And let's not forget that being active in research leadership gives your family the opportunity to brag about what an amazing person you are to anyone who will listen.
Number 9, travel opportunities. As we mentioned, research leadership is more than just service opportunities. It's also about the science. Travel opportunities exist when attending conferences or special trainings, such as the National Institute of Nursing Research summer boot camps. There are even virtual travel opportunities to meet with leaders in your field through web conferencing from the comfort of your own home. It's important to keep yourself open to the different opportunities that may arise. Recently, when submitting an abstract, I had an opportunity to apply for a Young Investigators Forum as part of a conference. It was really exciting to find out that I was accepted to the program. The program paid for my conference travel, registration, and hotel room. It also enabled me to meet experts in the field, broaden my network, and even obtain feedback on a grant. And so whether or not your travel is paid for, participation in research leadership opportunities allows you to see the world.
The leaders in the science of nursing research are also key contributors to a variety of organizations supporting research leadership in nursing. And that's why our number 8 is meeting leaders in nursing research. An easy way to start conversations with these leaders is while networking next to them in research leadership. Your devotion to the profession will be evident and will open doors for you with these leaders. Connections can be made that will advance your opportunities in service and in research, then may provide you with mentorship or connect you with other mentors, and they may help you to secure training opportunities. As an example, one of my informal mentors and I met while presenting at a conference. They were interested in my poster and stopped to talk with me. Because we were both engaging in research leadership of presenting at a conference, I was able to form a new connection. This mentor is only a phone call or email away, and many times has offered to help me form connections with other leaders in nursing research.
Number 7, you can learn about diverse research methods. We have tendencies to use the same or similar methods over and over again. We become familiar with them. Engaging in research leadership opportunities through attending conferences and expanding your network of other leaders can introduce you to new and diverse methods. For example, one conference I presented in a session with several others. One of those presentations focused on saliva collection. It was interesting, but not really relevant to my research. However, a year later, I found myself working on a project that was going to collect saliva samples. Thanks to this presentation, I had a bit of knowledge about the topic, and I immediately knew who I could reach out to. So even if that presentation you're sitting through doesn't seem very applicable at the moment, you would be surprised at how it can help expand your views of diverse research methods.
So at number 6, we have expanding your CV. It is critical for early career scholars to be purposefully working toward expanding and balancing their CVs. Reasons for adding content to your CV include securing funding and receiving positive annual reviews and promotion. Engaging in research leadership can expand your CV, adding valuable lines to the different areas needed for promotion and tenure. Once you're engaged in one research leadership opportunity, they can quickly snowball, providing access to many more opportunities. As an example, Kendra and I participated in research service opportunities early in our careers through local and regional organizations. After several years working to advance early career nurse scientists, we were asked to write an editorial on early research leadership. And all that leads us to today, where we're presenting to you here. It may sound self-serving, but each of these opportunities has provided us with a valuable line to add to our CVs.
Number 5, give voice to early career scholars. By serving in leadership roles, you can also provide a voice to the larger community of early career scholars. For example, while serving on a communications committee, I was able to discuss the need to integrate more modern communication approaches such as social media. This can be especially important as some organizations are less familiar with social media. In another instance, myself and a group of other early career scholars identified that additional mentorship would be beneficial. We were able to share this need with the organization's board and provide suggestions for what such a program could look like. Oftentimes, the challenges that you are facing are not unique to your organization. By reaching out and giving voice to these issues, you can help the community of early career scholars.
So here we are at number 4, future funding opportunities. Participating in research leadership can make you eligible and positioned for future funding opportunities. It may not seem evident, but service to an organization, although not specifically related to funding, can support your research applications. Partnering your service and research interests can increase your eligibility for funding opportunities. You may be alerted to upcoming applications and supported by those senior scientists surrounding you. Additionally, areas of service may relate directly to the work you're doing and strengthen your funding applications. An example of this would be if your area of service and that of your research is congruent. Think about your population of interest. You could be involved nationally, regionally, or locally with organizations that would provide you with a unique perspective and provide access that other similar applicants may not have. You can discuss these connections in your biosketch, which improves your authority in working with the population and ultimately your understanding of their unique needs.
Number 3, Engagement in research leadership can enhance your creativity. We are all too familiar with siloed approaches. In formal leadership roles, committees are often comprised of diverse people. These are people who you may not normally interact with. Regardless of formal or informal leadership roles, listening to a diversity of opinions can expand your thinking about a current problem or challenge, and it can open up new and creative approaches that you may not have considered before. All too often, I have struggled to solve a problem by myself. There's nothing better than talking with someone, getting their opinion, and then solving that problem. One example of this was when I was working on a manuscript related to the protection of human subjects in Facebook recruitment. I kind of knew the direction I wanted to take with the paper, but I was having a hard time synthesizing my ideas. I knew someone from one of the committees I served on had also used Facebook for recruitment, so I reached out to her for her expertise. She, in turn, not only contributed to the manuscript, but also identified that we would further benefit from someone with expertise in digital security. Together, this manuscript became much better than if I would have written it by myself.
So when you're active in research leadership, opportunities will be readily available to you. So our number 2, which is very important to the advancement of early career scholars, is the greater availability of training, promotion, and leadership. My personal trajectory was easier because I engaged in research leadership opportunities. Other scientists will notice your involvement and more opportunities will become available to you. For example, I began working with the Emerging Scholars Network of the Midwest Nursing Research Society early in my PhD program. During this time, I met with many senior scientists from the variety of academic institutions represented by the membership of this organization. One of these individuals took notice of my work, both on the committee and in my presentations at the conferences, and spent time talking with me about my program of research. This conversation led to a T32 funded postdoctoral fellowship and inclusion as a pilot investigator on a P30 grant. During the work on this grant, I was able to meet with other experts in the field. I was able to meet many different mentors, one of which has become my mentor at Indiana University. Each of these experiences was a critical component of helping me to develop my program of research and expand my involvement in research leadership.
And so now our number 1 reason is to gain an understanding of organizations and a system level approach. When serving on committees, you obtain a better appreciation for what goes on behind the scenes. Before involvement in an organization, it always seemed that abstract deadlines came so quickly. Perhaps you're feeling that way right now. And that it took seemingly forever to find out if your abstract was accepted. After participating in a committee that worked on abstract and awards timelines, I started to see behind the scenes, the challenge of obtaining volunteers to review abstracts, the process of abstract review, and the multiple moving pieces. Now I have a much greater appreciation for what occurs after I hit submit on an abstract. Now, when I receive emails to review abstracts, I try to be considerate, reply promptly, and remember all these moving pieces that are going on behind the scenes.
So beyond the top 10 personal and career reasons we've outlined, we need to talk about one very important reason why you should become engaged in research leadership. And that is that research leadership is important to the profession of nursing. Activities as an early career research scholar contribute to nursing in general. Clinical, community, and academic institutions each require engagement by nurse researchers to successfully meet their goals. Much of the research done in academia, while most of the implementation is in the community and clinical sites. Experience with research leadership helps both the individual nurse scholar and the institutions or organizations to which they serve.
Now that we've hopefully convinced you why engagement in research leadership is so important, who should get involved? The easy answer is you. No matter what your current career stage, educational level, or research interests, there's a place for you in research leadership. Research leadership does not necessarily mean that you are the president of an organization. Rather, there are multiple entry points for you to get involved. Take the Nursing Honor Society, for example, Sigma Theta Tau International, which was started by 6 students from Indiana University. This leads us to our next question. When should you get involved in research leadership opportunities? Get involved now. Both Kelly and I have a philosophy of early involvement. We have already discussed the many reasons why we think early involvement is essential. Even as a student, there are many opportunities. One recommendation is to start small, since oftentimes one opportunity will open more doors. My involvement during my undergraduate years was to participate in the Student Nurses Association. It is amazing how people notice others who just show up and participate. This opened doors for me to eventually become the president of the Student Nurses Association. Each of these small steps add up. So don't wait until you're an established researcher to start getting involved. Start now with a small step. And if you're listening and wishing that you would have heard this advice a few years ago, it's not too late. You can also start with a small step towards becoming more involved.
So what is important to note is that you can form a trajectory of research leadership that may start as a trickle, but develops into a cascade of opportunities, like a waterfall. As I noted in my bio for this presentation, I've been involved in research leadership since my time as a staff nurse. I started by leading a journal club where a group of staff nurses would examine research evidence. We would meet and discuss the evidence, suggest relevant changes to hospital policy, and help administrators to understand why we were suggesting the changes to improve patient care. This work then prompted both research inquiry projects, where we would focus on a specific nursing care issue, and also on a staff nurse-driven research project, both of which I provided leadership. I then shifted my focus to leadership in my PhD program with the development and leadership of a doctoral nursing student association at Michigan State University. As a founding and executive member of the Emerging Scholars Network of the Midwest Nursing Research Society. All of these experiences have taken me further than I imagined early in my career, as I'm currently serving on the board of directors of the Midwest Nursing Research Society. And I look back and I think about all these experiences and how they started from just reading research with some peers. It may seem like a small step to start with, but it easily forms into something else. So I talked in the last slide about my trajectory of timing in research leadership and how that led to further opportunities. I want to shift focus slightly from when to where for this slide. It may seem overwhelming to determine where to participate in research leadership, but there are likely more opportunities than you even recognize. With research leadership impacting each clinical, academic, and community settings, it's important to identify where you can participate in each of these environments. This figure, published in the Western Journal of Nursing Research, provides a starting point to determine where you may be able to participate in research leadership. Let's go through it briefly. On the left, you can see local, regional, and global. This represents the type of organizations you may be interested in participating with. So if you would like to focus your efforts locally, you can start at the top. Then across the figure from left to right is the types of environments: clinical, academic, and community. We recognize that these are not fully distinct categories, as local organizations may interact with regional and global organizations. Likewise, clinical, academic, and communities share a lot of overlap. In fact, you can see in particular internal review boards and specialty organizations extend across all three environments. These are places where members of each environment are working together, and they may be a really nice place for you to get started. I hope that you're able to identify in this figure and from your own experiences a variety of options of where you can engage in a setting that makes sense for your position and for your program of research.
So we just shared what engagement in research leadership means, the 10 reasons why you should do it, who should do it, when you should do it, and what settings. But now the practical question, how? We want to take a couple of moments to ask some questions that will get you thinking about your next steps. Here are some questions to help you get started. First, what are you passionate about? What drives you to get up in the morning? Who can you help? Do you focus on a certain population of patients or healthcare workers? Based on your interests, what organizations already exist to work on this? Who can you partner with? What people do you know who do similar work? How can you contribute? What are your strengths? Or perhaps you want to start with a smaller step. Take a moment to think about where you are in your nursing career. Are you a student, clinician, faculty member, researcher, or maybe all of them? What are the leadership opportunities that already exist in your space? Are there student nurses associations or faculty governance committees? Perhaps there are some unmet needs that you could help. And so we're going to give you a moment to think about 3 ways you can get involved in research leadership. Here's the image that Kelly went over. Again, because I think it's important to thinking about the multiple levels of which you can become involved. Could you participate in a journal club? Or maybe you could start a journal club. Could you attend a nearby conference? Join a committee. As you can see, committees are listed multiple times and at multiple levels on this figure.
So hopefully we've convinced you the why, who, and when. So now I encourage you to think about the where and how. Kendra just helped you to think through some relevant questions to help you formulate a specific plan. Where are some places that you can see yourself engaging in research leadership? How do you see your role in each of these places? As we end this presentation, we encourage you to take a moment and write down 3 different ways that you can get involved in research leadership now. If you have time, you can send us a tweet with your plan. We'd love to support you as you find ways to bring meaningful contributions to nursing science. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to engage with us in this important topic. And at this time, we would love to answer any questions you may have and hear from you about how you can engage in research leadership.
Hi, Dr. Moringa and Dr. Kim, thank you so much. One of the questions that we wanted to ask was, one of the things you mentioned here was, what are you passionate about? What would you recommend for those people who may have multiple items that they're passionate about, or maybe they've worked in one area, but they're passionate about another area? How would you recommend they get involved in research leadership?
I think that's a really good question. Thank you. You know, both of Kendra and I are engaged in research leadership in a couple different areas. We have passions for different things. One of the things that we're both engaged in is helping to advance early career scholars in their research as they move forward as students into faculty roles, helping them to get connected. And so we're both engaged in an organization that helps with that. But we are both also engaged with organizations that support our patient populations. So I don't really see it as an either or issue, it's an and. And so I encourage everyone out there to think about ways that they can Maybe combine two passions into one, or you can just be active in multiple places. And there's so much work for all of us to do that you're more than welcome to do that. Kendra, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree. Like Kelly said, we both have multiple areas of interests, both in our clinical populations as well as overall thinking about how we advance early career scholars and create supportive environments for them. And so I think it's possible to engage in multiple different areas. Of course, you want to keep everything in balance and not sign up for all sorts of service opportunities and not have time for doing other things like your research, your teaching, or your learning. So just keeping that in mind is important as well.
Okay, thank you. That was really good information. And we have another question. It's more of a two-part question. So I'll say the first part is, what strategies do you use to help advance writing for publications beyond manuscripts? And then the second part is, what metrics would be used to assess professional development as scholars? Should I go over that again?
I got the first one, so why don't I start with the first question here.
Sure.
So some strategies to use to write beyond manuscripts. So this is actually something that I've been interested in. I wouldn't say that I'm an expert, but I have noticed that there's a lot of communication with the academic community in social media. Specifically, I've found that Twitter can be a really great place for academics to communicate about their interests. And I think it's a great way to find some really interesting readers in research. Now, those may be in nursing and they may be beyond nursing, but I think that that's a way that you can enhance your creativity, is by following a number of people in this academic social media and learning from them on a regular basis. This helps me to stimulate ideas. Not only is it one avenue that I can use to write beyond manuscripts in social media, but also it helps me when I'm writing manuscripts to think about the issues that we're looking at in a more varied and diverse way. I know another way that Kendra and I have participated in writing beyond manuscripts is to write editorials as well. And so there's a lot of opportunities to do that, especially when you're engaged in research leadership. Those are always needed by many journals, and they will reach out to you when you're engaged to write on the topic of your interest.
Can you read the second part of that question?
Sure, and thank you. I'm glad you mentioned the idea about the social media, because we know that's definitely an emerging area for many people, many nurses, and in the healthcare profession. The second part of the question was, what metrics do you use or can be used to assess professional development as scholars? So for example, we know sometimes things like professional organization memberships may be viewed, or different competencies, or even as we talked about, publications or awards. So what other types of things you think could be used to actually assess professional development as scholars?
Yeah, so Kendra, do you want to take this, or do you want me to keep talking?
Go for it.
It really depends on your institution as far as what metrics they're going to accept. But I take a pretty broad approach to including things on my CV. I do not at this point, but I do know people that include some of their social media interactions as components of their CV. But I do certainly include things like participating in webinars and other research leadership opportunities, serving on committees. The service area of your CV can be really important, and I think can be kind of overlooked when your focus is on research. But it really is quite easy to serve in research leadership when you're engaged in an organization.
Yeah, so for me, in terms of metrics, on my CV, I keep a record of organizations that I'm a member of, organizations of which I am a member of a specific committee. I list those out separately. I also have a section where I have, I call it media interviews, but times where I've like talked to someone who's written an article or things like that. I do also keep a record of things like this that I've attended, different webinars and that, but I do not incorporate that into my CV. I include that as a list for myself, for understanding what I've done professionally during the year, and for kind of reporting that to my department.
Okay, thank you so much. It sounds like it's really good. A key thing here that I've heard you mention several times is the connections. So whether it be with the organizations, community, or professional organizations, it sounds like as scholars, that would be a key thing that they want to make sure that they're participating in. Would you say that, or would you agree?
Absolutely. I think, as we had shared, both Kelly and I started small. We just started by attending things and showing up, and this opened more doors for both of us. And I'd say that by interacting in these organizations and on these committees, it opens more doors for people that you might want to work with, people who you might want to go and get a postdoc with, or people who you may want to go to that institution for a faculty position. And so, yeah, I think the building connections is important. I think it can be overwhelming to think, how in the world do I start? But I think it's just starting slowly, small, getting involved. And as I mentioned, it's amazing that when you just show up and do what you said you would do, that people take notice.
Thank you. That sounds really good. And it's funny you mentioned the word overwhelming. Another question that we had was, how do you handle disappointment or feeling overwhelmed or exhausted? Because the work may be overwhelming. Maybe, of course, the work of being a scholar, working on your scholarly work, but then also, if you are involved in an organization or you do have connections, you're doing things outside of, your actual academic arena. How would you handle disappointment if it becomes too much, or maybe burnout? What would you recommend for that?
I think that's a really good question, and I'd like to go back to earlier in the presentation when we talked about making connections, both with forming friendships with people that you're serving with, as well as creating a network of mentors. I don't think that you can really do this type of work all alone. It's, overwhelming is a really good word for it. You can easily get stuck, in your silo, thinking about things the way that you're thinking about them. But when you've created a community, both with the immediate people you work with, but also with the global network of scholars that are out there, you can reach out to them. And many times, as Kendra used an example of earlier, you may be struggling with a problem for days, weeks, even months, and you reach out to another scholar, talk to them about it, and there's an elegant solution that you were just missing because you were kind of stuck in the weeds. And so I think that my number one strategy for avoiding feeling overwhelmed and disappointed is to have this network of people that you regularly reach out to.
I completely would agree with that. I try and have not only established mentors in the field, but also friends and colleagues who are just a step or two ahead of me career-wise. And Kelly is one of those people for me. And so everything that I go through as part of my postdoc, feeling overwhelmed, how do I deal with disappointment over a grant rejection, Just about all of it, Kelly has already been through. So I reach out to her. And I also reach out, I have some friends who we try and touch base once a week and share what we're working on in terms of accountability, but also any struggles that we have. And that we sometimes, meet via Zoom, or sometimes we just text each other. And so I think it's important to think strategically about who around you can support you.
I'm actually really glad that you brought up this slide right now, because I wanted to touch base on how important the Jonas Network has been to, I know, both of us as well as other Jonas scholars, but I actually have created a network of people just through my participation in the Jonas Scholars Program. And those people I also can reach out to. They're in the same stage as I am, and so they really understand what it's like to be where I am.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's really good to know. And also what I was going to mention before was that, this webinar was actually pulled together by our Jonas Scholar Alumni Council. So we're also grateful to them for their support. And we had another question in addition, as we're talking about support and working with each other and connecting. What resources would you recommend in terms of maybe publications or books or other authors that may provide more information about connecting and mentorship and taking that step moving forward?
So there are some really great publications out there that talk about this issue, and I apologize, but I do not know them off the top of my head right now, but I can certainly put those on Twitter later if that would be helpful. So I would say that one of the best ways that I have supported my manuscripts is by talking with others who have more experience. In particular, I have a couple of mentors that I have met through organizations that I served on, and they are editors of journals. And I have just sat and talked with them about, what kind of things that they see that bother them when people submit, and how I can, become kind of a better steward of my manuscript writing so that I'm not wasting reviewers' time or my own or editors' time, but that I approach those issues early. And so I would say that by connecting with people who have experience with editing for journals, you can help avoid some of those pitfalls.
And I'd say also the accountability piece. So when I tell people that I'm going to work on a method section, if I tell them on Monday and I know on Friday they're going to message me and ask me how that section is coming along, that provides a lot more motivation to do it than if I'm just trying to internally motivate myself. So that's been helpful too, is having outside people to keep me accountable.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are really good strategies as well. I think accountability is also a big one that a lot of scholars may really look at when it comes to connecting and also engaging, whether it be with a mentor or, like you mentioned, with another scholar, having those networks. And, I think you bring out really good key points in terms of encouraging everyone to really look at the things that the people around them, basically, in their network. And another question that we were thinking about is, in terms of getting involved in, say, maybe things outside of the box that you may not think may be normal. So, for example, we have a focus, as you know, also on veterans healthcare. And one of the key things there is working in the field of telehealth. So in doing that, and being with technology today, how would you encourage scholars if they have an idea that they think is outside of the box that may or may not be traditional in terms of networking or trying to reach out? How would you encourage them to try to present that or move forward with that?
I think that's a really good question. Now that I'm in a faculty role, one of the things that I need to do to move my program of research is to move beyond my areas of comfort. One of the ways that I'm doing this is that I'm trying to move my intervention to working with rural communities and using telehealth. But I originally didn't have a lot of experience with how to do that. I mean, I meet with colleagues on a regular basis using meetings like Zoom, but that's different than approaching patients. And so I was able to connect with a variety of other committees and organizations in my state that deal directly with those ideas. And so what I try and do is tease apart like different components. So say, for instance, the telehealth and rural communities. I approached both of those individually. And so I talked with communities of organizations who are dealing with rural groups. And then I also talked with those who are advancing technology to see if I could find a way to bring everyone to the table to address the health issues that we're noticing in nursing.
And I think that's something that nurses do well, is that we are able to bring people together with diverse opinions. And so sometimes when you have outside of the box and creative thoughts, it requires going to multiple different people and getting different opinions and different expertise. And you probably won't find that all in one person. Looking in your organization or going to conferences and seeing who's presenting, who's on the cutting edge of what you're looking to do.
Okay, thank you so much. It sounds like you're really saying, again, that whole connecting with networks and organizations, that theme seems to really be relating and moving forward throughout your presentation today. Did you have any final comments or thoughts you wanted to share with everyone before we wrap up our presentation today?
I think that you summarized well there what we've been thinking. You know, there's a lot to do with research leadership that's really just forming connections. If our goal as nurses is to improve the health of our world, then we need to work together to do that. And each of us is important. Each of us has something to share, and each of us can help lead someone else. And so I would encourage everyone to find a way that they can help someone else, and a way that you can reach out to get help from someone else, because we're all there to be helping each other to move nursing in the right direction.
Okay. Well, thank you both very much for being with us today. Again, we have Dr. Kelly Waringa and Dr. Kendra Kemp, who are Jonas Scholar alumni, and they've completed their presentation today, Engagement in Research Leadership for Early Career Scholars. So we thank you both again for sharing and for really providing a lot of helpful information in our presentation today. We just want to provide one more slide for those of you who would like to take advantage of earning the CE credits. You'll see the evaluation slide there, and we have our partners from AACN, Marta Okinowski. Were there any final comments you wanted to include about this, about the evaluation and the CE credits, Marta?
Thanks, Althea. No, I have no further comments. Just make sure that you copy that link. We'll also, if it's possible, can we send that out via chat to everyone as well? So you can click on the link directly in the chat box.
Thank you so much. And thank you all again for joining us. Remember, you can visit our website at www.jonasphilanthropies.org. And you can also follow us on our social media channels at Jonas Philanthropies on Facebook and LinkedIn, and at Jonas Impact on Twitter. Again, we appreciate all of you joining us today and your participation, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you.